Hi everyone, if you're new here, my name's Lottie, and if you're a subscriber, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a video about grad school apps, updates, everything like that. I wanted to kind of have a video where I answer all of your questions about grad school. It all happened really fast, and just kind of to talk about and reflect on my grad school applications, why I decided to apply, why during a global pandemic would I go, etc. So I hope this video can be helpful to some of you, whether you're thinking about going to grad school or not. So I guess I'll kind of just tell the story of my application process, and then I asked on my Instagram, which I will leave a link on the screen and in the description box below. I asked on there if you guys had any specific questions for me, so I'll make sure to answer those at the end if I haven't already touched on your question. So I just graduated from the University of Georgia in May with a degree in public relations, which is a Bachelor of Arts degree through the journalism school at UGA. So my degree leans more creative, communications based rather than like business, even though PR is kind of somewhere in the middle of like communications and business. In the public relations field, your career growth is really dependent on internships and networking and who you know. It's not dependent on having a graduate degree, really, if you want to do public relations. And so I never really considered going to grad school. I was like, meh, I don't know, maybe I'll get an MBA one day if I want to do some more like business oriented stuff, but I don't really see a need to get like a master's of PR or a master's in advertising or anything like that, just because it really is a lot about getting experience rather than having that added level of education, unless of course you want to teach at the college level. All year I had kind of been thinking about it. Last summer I thought about going to law school for like 2 weeks, and then I was like, no. But I have been thinking about it a little bit. And one thing that was really deterring me from applying to any grad schools or grad programs was the standardized testing you have to take to get into grad programs. So of course for like med school there's the MCAT, for law school there's the LSAT, but for like business programs there's the GRE or the GMAT for like business programs sometimes. My brother took the GRE because he got a degree in political science and international affairs, so he studied for the GRE, so that was the main one I knew about. I thought about registering for the GRE many times just to have a score, but I was really apprehensive about it because I took the ACT like 4 times, which isn't like the worst thing ever, but I'm just not a good test taker in general when it comes to standardized testing. Not my thing. I'm not a bad student, I'm just a really bad test taker. I just decided no. So throughout my senior year I was pretty much just convinced that I was gonna go start an agency after I graduated in a city, whether it be Atlanta, New York, or DC. Those were kind of the 3 cities I was looking in. So I was like, I don't need an extra degree for that. Spring break rolls around and I applied to a ton of internships for the summer, because in my field a lot of times you have to do an internship after your senior year and then you might get a full-time job at the end of the summer. It's very common to do internships post-grad in the creative industry, especially PR and advertising. I was applying to a lot of different agency internship programs like Edelman and Weber Shandwick, and I actually got really far in my Edelman interview for Edelman in New York, but then they canceled their program, and I did apply to an internship with Coca-Cola, and they have iterated and made their internship program virtual this summer, and I was lucky enough to land a spot as a virtual intern this summer. So I'm having so much fun working from home this summer for Coca-Cola. Once again, I interned for them last summer and I'm loving my experience this summer again so far, so I'm really lucky about that. So also in March I was finishing up some of my schoolwork, and one day I got an email to my school email from Wake Forest University. It actually was a personal message that was sent through Handshake, which I don't know if you guys have Handshake at your universities. So I was contacted by an admissions counselor from Wake Forest University and was invited to apply to their Master's in Management program. In the message it said that I was automatically being considered for like a $10,000 scholarship or something like that because of my GPA, and that they were waiving the GRE and standardized test scores because of Corona and because of my GPA, just that I should consider applying. And I had never heard of a Master's in Management before, so I did a little bit of research and I found that it actually seemed like a really good fit for me. And with that whole test score issue being out of the way, I was like, what the heck, why wouldn't I apply? All I have to do is really like submit my resume, answer a few short questions. I was like, yeah, like why not? Just to keep my options open, I decided to apply. I spoke on the phone with the woman who reached out to me, who was really nice and helpful. So I was really excited about that potential. And then from there, I started researching master's in management programs in general. I found this YouTuber, her channel name is K-Choi, and she has really helpful videos on this. So I'll link her channel down below, but she did a video on the difference between an MIM and an MBA, master's in management, and a master's of business administration. A lot of you are probably familiar with an MBA. I know I was before. Master's in management is a little bit different. It's for people with like 0 to 2 years of work experience, which is more what I have with my internships, but coming right out of undergrad. But they both cover basic business concepts and practices. MIM programs are usually 10 months or about a year, and MBA programs are usually 2 years. So I really like the idea of being in a cohort of people who were closer in my age, maybe just out of undergrad, that the program was only for 10 months, and that it would just give me some of those added business skills I'm looking to have in my career. And then that way I don't have to worry about ever having to go back and get an MBA, because they're very comparable degrees. So I thought it could be a really good way to spend the next year while things are still crazy with Corona. I know so many of the agencies are doing major layoffs right now. And so even for someone like me who feels like I'm a pretty strong candidate for a lot of these entry-level roles at agencies and things like that, it's really discouraging to see people who have worked at these agencies for like 2, 5, 10 years get laid off right now, because like there's no way they're gonna hire someone like me, you know what I mean, when they just had to lay off so much of their staff. So it's very discouraging. The field is a little disrupted right now. So after seeing all of that kind of start to go down, I was like, this may actually be a really good idea. I was never going to do like an arts or communications master's degree. I always, if I was going to do one, wanted to do business, just because I am interested in like marketing and the kind of like business side of communications, if that makes sense. Like, I guess in general, I just love like creative brand campaigns, branding, marketing, PR, influencer stuff. Like, I don't know, all that stuff is really fun to me. And so I kind of just wanted to be able to have a good 360 view at a campaign, to be able to say, okay, here's how we should do our messaging, here's how we should do our branding. So I can do the communication strategy, the creative strategy, and the business strategy piece of, you know, finances and budget and return on investment and measuring and evaluating the success of the campaign. So I kind of just wanted to have that 360 view, and that's why I was always considering a business graduate degree if I was gonna get one. Now I'll talk about where I all ended up applying. And also keep in mind, I only applied to the schools that would waive my GRE, and I refused to take any standardized testing. So yeah, I ended up applying to Wake Forest as I was invited. I applied to Duke University, which they have a really strong program, and then I applied to Georgetown. So I got into Wake and I got a scholarship, and I was super excited. And then after that, I got into Georgetown, and I actually ended up withdrawing my application from Duke because I decided to go to Georgetown. That was my #1 choice, and I got a scholarship to Georgetown, so that was really exciting. For all of my applications, my GRE score was waived, except for Duke. You could replace it with your ACT score. So I sent in my ACT score from like 5 years ago. You have to have letters of recommendation. One of my amazing professors from UGA, I reached out to him and he offered to help me out and write a letter of rec, which was very helpful and I really appreciate it. And then also I had one of my supervisors from Coca-Cola write one, so that was really helpful as well. Thank you, shout out. That is one of the more like stressful pieces. I feel so bad asking people to write letters of recommendation, but that's just something you kind of have to do. There were essays that I had to write. So for Georgetown, there was a standard essay and then a video essay, which I kind of loved that they had the video essay, because that was just a really great medium for me. So I did those two, and then you can also do a third optional scholarship essay, so I did that one as well, and then I got a scholarship, so that was awesome. I think that was pretty much it. I'd say that essays were obviously the hardest part, just the most time consuming, and I'm a perfectionist, so I was sitting there like correcting them all the time. I applied literally to all of these programs pretty much like the end of April or early May, which is really late. A lot of programs like start accepting applicants at the beginning of the school year, like September, October, November. So pretty much all of mine were either rolling up admissions at that point, or like round 5. Oh, and I'm like completely forgetting that I had interviews. So once I sent in my applications, like I said, I ended up withdrawing my application from Duke, so I never ended up, because that one was on a later timeline. Like I applied to Wake and Georgetown within like the same few days, so they were on a similar timeline in terms of admissions, but it makes it really hard when you apply to another program later. So one tip that I would have would be to get like all of your materials ready to go, and then try to submit most of your applications like within the same rounds as each other, or like just in a similar timeline, because I had to let Wake Forest know if I was gonna accept or decline my offer before I even like heard if I got an interview with Duke. So it was just not helpful because I didn't know, and my application fee for Duke got waived, so that's why I decided to go ahead and apply, because it wasn't gonna cost anything to me. So I'll throw that in there. So I heard back from Wake Forest first, and I interviewed with them. We did Zoom interviews. It was way less stressful than having to like go in for an actual interview, especially right now during Corona. Of course, everything is like on Zoom or on video calls. It's really nothing crazy. I mean, I've had lots of internship interviews before, and honestly it was nothing any different from those. It's like, why do you like our program? Why would you want to go here? Can you tell me about a time when you did X or Y? Or basically the same thing as a job interview, but it's just for their program instead of for a specific position at a company. But it's really just a matter of like doing your research, knowing your facts on the program, knowing their top points and mentioning them in the interview so that they know you've done your research and that you know about the benefits of their program, and then having a few questions lined up. So I can do I guess a different video on grad school interviews if you guys want to know more about them. I'd say the essays to me were more stressful than the interviews. I did my Wake Forest interview probably a week before my Georgetown one, and then I heard back from Wake, and then I heard back from Georgetown. So Georgetown actually was really kind, and they asked if, you know, I had any other schools that I was looking at, and so I said yes, and that I had to let them know by this certain date. So if I could know my Georgetown decision, like, you know, just that day before I had to let the other school know, then that would be really helpful. So they did let me know my decision before I had to let Wake know, so I was able to make the decision between the two, both admissions offers in hand. So I ended up realizing that Wake Forest's program was gonna start in July, and my internship with Coke runs through early August, and I just thought it was gonna be too much to be a full-time student at Wake while also being a full-time intern at Coke. So I decided to go with Georgetown, because Georgetown was my #1 choice the whole time, but I decided to go with Georgetown also because they pushed their start date back to the end of August, so the timing just worked out a lot better with my internship program. So I will say I was also looking at that when I was looking at applying to other schools as well. A lot of the programs do start in July, and so I was looking for programs that started in August. One of the reasons I really was attracted to the Georgetown program is that their program really has a focus on diversity and inclusion, and I think that it's really important to have a cohort of people who are all very diverse. I think it makes a team stronger, and it provides other perspectives. Something I was thinking about is that I just really love DC. My brother's there. I went on a trip there in January with my school to visit some PR agencies there, and I just really love DC. It's fun, it has lots of young people, but it's not like crazy overwhelming, but it still has like a city and has lots to do and things like that. So I went to the Georgetown Soul Cycle actually when I was on that trip in DC, and just the people in my class, I liked the vibe. And Georgetown is so cute, the actual little town, and I'm just really excited for the fall. So, but actually getting into that, they just released, Georgetown did some of their plans for the fall, as DC is continuing to kind of reopen hopefully, but the program can be done entirely virtually if that is what you would feel most comfortable doing. So that option is on the table, and I'm considering it. I don't really want to do it all virtually, but at the same time I could save so much money doing it all here at home instead of spending money on rent in DC. I really do want to be in DC, but it looks like if you are doing it in person, there's going to be like rotations, and so I'm just curious, I guess, to learn more about that plan. They're still kind of figuring it out, so that'll be interesting. I also want to learn more about how many people are going to do it virtually, how many are considering like being in DC and doing it there, because like if everyone's doing it virtually, I'm not gonna like make any friends in my cohort. So I guess I just am still kind of figuring it out. I'm not necessarily going to be in DC all of next year, but in an ideal world I would be. That's where we're at right now. So I hope that was helpful in kind of explaining my grad school process and just giving you guys more context on all of that. So now I'm going to answer some of the questions that you guys submitted. I put a story up. I'm only going to answer the ones that I haven't already addressed. If I don't answer yours, don't feel bad. I love all of you. Thank you so much if you submitted a question. So Natalie asks, why did you decide to go to grad school right after undergrad? Probably because of Corona. I'm gonna say if Corona hadn't happened, then I would have probably been at an agency this summer and then hopefully gotten a full-time job there in the fall. I figure I'm already in school mode, if you know what I mean. And so I think that it'll be a lot harder to go back to school later than it would be to just go now and like be done with school forever. Because I don't know, I think if I just start working and I'm like, oh, maybe one day I'll get an MBA or an MIM or whatever, then it's just a lot more of a burden. And if you're trying to get an MBA while you're working, it can take like 3 years, and you're like going to class at night or like on the weekends, and that's just like a lot. So I'd rather just focus, be a full-time student for like a year and be done than like try to balance so much at a later time. So hopefully this will help me be more competitive when I do start applying for jobs. Viviana asks, what made you decide to attend grad school and why Georgetown, why not UGA? So I think I kind of already answered why grad school and why Georgetown. They waived my GRE. I liked the video essay aspect of the application. I just like the culture of their program. Like I said, the diversity and inclusion piece. They have a focus on technology and STEM, which I think is really helpful. I want to learn more about kind of business and technology and the intersections there. So I'm really excited about that piece, and their program just seemed like the best fit to me. And why not UGA? UGA doesn't have a master's in management program. I was looking at their master's in marketing research program, but they did not waive the GRE and they did not extend their application deadline for the master's in marketing research because of COVID. And so that was really too late, and then from there weren't really many other programs I was interested in at UGA. I don't know, I just felt like I needed something fresh and new and a new adventure, so I thought somewhere new would be fun. Morgan asks, what's the process like of applying to grad school? So I hope I kind of answered that in this video, but please let me know if you have any outstanding questions in the comments below. But you do your research on different programs. You might attend, I attended a few virtual information sessions, and then you can start your application, and then you'll do your essays, your letters of rec, submit, you'll have your interview, and then you should hear back. So that was like, that's like the basic overview, I guess. Lauren asks, why did you choose to go to grad school instead of trying to work? Again, I think I'm just very discouraged about the PR, advertising, marketing industry right now because of Corona. There've been so many layoffs. So I just thought it made sense for me right now. Haley asks, I'm looking to get my MBA in marketing. How can I decide the best schools / programs for it? Just researching. I guess you would either get an MBA or kind of like a master's in marketing. There are MBAs with concentrations. And actually Wake Forest MIM program just started having concentrations, which is really cool. And that was something I really liked about their program, is you can like concentrate in marketing. But really just doing research, watching videos about the program, doing virtual information sessions. You can have calls with admissions counselors from each program, just to learn more about their programs. I think you gotta find the right school in terms of location, in terms of price, fit. You just gotta think about your goals and kind of combine, you know, strength of program with all these other things that are important as well. Brittany asks, when should you start thinking about grad school as a college student? I think this is a good question. If you want to go to like law school or med school or anything like that, of course you probably have to start thinking about it a little bit earlier. I really didn't think much about it until probably junior year. You can really wait until senior year if you want to. I don't think that there's any like set rules on this, but if you are gonna take like the GRE or the GMAT or any of those tests, then you can start thinking about it as early as you want to and start taking them, because those scores are good for 5 years. It was not very helpful for me to have to ask my professor really last minute to write me recommendations, so being courteous and giving them plenty of time to do that is obviously more helpful. So I think just thinking about some things like that in terms of timing and logistics is good. Claire asks, how should we format our resume? What's a CV? My resume I sent into these programs was my fun one. I have like a, I call them like my boring and my fun one, but you could call it like a traditional resume and a creative resume. I sent in my creative one because I am a very creative person. My resume was like black and white, but then it had accents of like this like teal blue color, and that's just fun, and it's like 2 columns, and so that's like my creative fun one, and that's the one I sent into my grad school programs. You can send in a traditional one or a creative one. When you're sending in a job application to like a portal instead of just emailing it to someone, I recommend using a traditional resume so that it can like scan properly. But when you're submitting your resume to these grad programs, admissions counselors are gonna look at your resume, so I send the fun ones because I think they're more eye-catching, and also that's my personality. personality, and that's who I am, and I want to show who I am to these counselors. And to me, I was thinking like, you know, if my resume being a little bit more fun and creative is a turnoff to them for their program, then it's not the right program for me. I'm not a good fit. And I sent in my creative resume to Coke as well, and they accepted me both times. Like, I think it's important to be yourself. So how you should format your resume, just do what reflects who you are and like what looks good to you. I think everyone has different perspectives on resumes, so you can't listen to all of them because everyone has like, I don't know, just different opinions on things. You just have to do what feels right for you. And then what's a CV? A CV is a curriculum vitae, vitae, I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's Latin, but it basically just means resume. So it's basically the same thing as a resume and a CV. Michelle asks, was it easier to apply to undergrad or grad school? Grad school I think was easier, but I also did it in like a matter of 3 weeks or so. It was like a very fast process because it was rolling, but I'd already written essays before. It didn't feel like as big of a thing. I didn't have to take any tests. I did have interviews, which I didn't have for any of my undergrad applications, but the undergrad ones just felt like a bigger deal. Like, they felt more stressful. I felt more weight about them. I didn't feel like this was gonna be the end of the world if I got rejected from any of these schools. Yeah, I don't know. I just felt like I had my footing better when it comes to grad school applications than I did for undergrad. JD said, how did you choose between MBA versus MIM? Great question. I kind of touched on this, but MIM is made for people more so right out of undergrad, and also made for people with less business experience that come from all different backgrounds and different majors. I also didn't want to do a 2-year program. I thought that was going to be just like too much, and I preferred to do like 10-month intensive program. I thought it was a unique program, and just it sounded like a better fit to me all around. I'm getting questions like, how was the GRE? Did you have to take the GMAT? So again, no. I would recommend, also one of the reasons that I decided to apply right now is because so many of these places were doing GRE and GMAT waivers because of Corona, because like you can't go take the tests right now because the testing centers were closed. And so I was like, I need to take advantage of this, because if I try to go back to grad school in like 3 years, they're gonna make me take these tests, and I don't wanna do it. I feel like I've been talking your ear off though. But yeah, please let me know if you have any other questions about grad school or anything like that. I announced my decision to go to Georgetown on my Instagram, so again, if you're not following me on there, it's a great place to keep up with me and all of my happenings that are going on. I'm gonna do some vlogs this week. I'm sorry I haven't put up a video in a month. I wanted to take some time off to create space for Black voices and amplify Black voices. Black Lives Matter, and I want to use my platform to amplify that movement. I still am being pretty strict about quarantine, but I've been signing lots of petitions and donating to different organizations that are supporting the movement, and just doing everything I can to educate myself more and learn more about my privilege. I will completely acknowledge my privilege. So please know that if you're a Black member of this community that I have here on my channel, I fully support you and I'm here for you. And I kind of wanted to take some time off to create space, like I said, for Black voices, to amplify them. Okay guys, I think that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up down below. Leave me video requests, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all that good stuff. Would love to have you on those platforms as well. And I will see you in my next video. Let me know if you have any questions, video requests, comments. I will try to answer all of them, do my best to. So yeah, love you guys. See you soon. Bye.